So this video is for Chapter 2, Section 5. This is dealing with what's called literal equations and formulas. So basically it boils down to we're going to have equations with two different variables in them, and we are going to have to solve for one of the variables. Okay? So here's our first example. Okay. We want to rewrite what's called a literal equation. Okay? The equation is 10x plus 5y equals 80, where x is the number of pizzas and y is the number of sandwiches. So we have this formula for some kind of a pizza joint, and it's $10 per pizza and $5 per sandwich. So 10 times x plus 5 times y equals $80 total that they spent. Now, the first thing they say is how many sandwiches can you buy if you buy 3 pizzas or 6 pizzas? But what we want to do is rewrite this before we try to go ahead and solve that. And so look at it as, what are we looking for? We are looking for how many sandwiches. So that's what we're trying to get to in the end. So that's what we want to get to be all along. So what represents the number of sandwiches? Y. So we're going to take this equation, 10x plus 5y equals 80, and we are going to get y all by itself. So the same types of rules are used that we use when solving just normal equations. Okay, we want to get the 5y out, the y all by itself. So we want to move this 10x over. So we subtract 10x from each side. Those cancel. Can you take 80 minus 10x? You can, but they don't combine at all. So you have 80 minus 10x. Then we divide by 5. Get rid of the 5. Those cancel, and we are left with y equals. And now what you have to do is you have to remember, do this. 80 divided by 5 and 10x divided by 5, they each have to be divided by 5 individually. So 80 divided by 5 is 16. 10x divided by 5 is 2x. So now you have this equation that's solved for y. And now when it asks you how many sandwiches can you buy if you buy 3 pizzas, it's a matter of just plugging this number 3 or 6 into this equation. So let's do it for 3. If we did y equals 16 minus 2 times 3, we would get 16 minus 6, which is 10. And that means you could buy 10 sandwiches and 3 pizzas and still spend $80. So again, same type of thing. What are the values of m when n equals -2, 0, and 2? So we want to solve the equation for m. So we want to get m all by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is add 5n to both sides. Those cancel. We are left with 4 plus 5n equals 2m. And then we're going to have to divide by 2. Those cancel, and we are left with m over here. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 5 divided by 2 is still 5 halves. It's 2 1/2, so you could do either. I'm going to leave it as 5 over 2n. And then again, what are the values for m when n is -2, 0, and 2? So you just plug those numbers in. If, for instance, you plugged in -2, 5 halves times negative 2 gives you negative 5n. Sorry, negative 5. 2 plus negative 5 gives you negative 3. So you just plug in numbers. It sometimes gets to be a little bit more daunting of a task when all you see are variables and no numbers in it. The concept's still the same. So we have to solve this for x. So this is a little trickier. ax minus bx. You remember how you distribute? You know, when you have a times b minus c and you distribute, right? A times b minus a times c. Well, this is very similar, except that x is what was distributed. So if we combine these, right, they both have an x. So combined, they would be a minus b times x. So let's write that. A minus b times x. Just make sure that you put x on the outside of parentheses to show that both a and b get an x. And then if you wanted to get x all by itself, how do you get x all by itself? You divide by a minus b. And if you divide by a minus b, do it to this side as well. And you are now left with x equals c over a minus b. I'm going to do two more real quick. So solve for x here. So we have negative t equals r plus px. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract r. Treat it just like it was a number. So now we have negative t minus r equals px. And if I want x all by itself, I just divide by p to both sides. These cancel, and you're left with x equals negative t minus r divided by p. It's the same concepts as if they were numbers. So don't get all freaked out just because there are no numbers involved. It's still, you subtract, you do inverses. So if we're adding r, you subtract r. If we're multiplying by p, you divide by p. Okay. So these are some popular formulas that they have. We're going to look at specifically the circumference of a circle, which is c equals 2 pi r, because we will need that right here. C equals 2 pi r. What is the radius of a circle if the circumference is 64? So we're going to replace circumference with 64. And we now have 2 pi r. We divide by 2. 64 divided by 2 is 32. And now we have this goofy pi times r. If you're not familiar, pi is a constant value. It's 3.14. So if we divide by pi, 32 divided by 3.14 is going to give us approximately 10.2. So r equals 10.2. So those are the type of things that you'll be doing in the assignment tomorrow. Don't overthink them. They are just normal equations, just sometimes they have more variables than numbers, more than you're used to.